नमस्कार। कल्चर मैटर्स विद कैलाश मिश्रा में आप सभी का स्वागत है। टुडे our speaker is our today's speaker is very special, a distinguished scholar of art history, folklore, and he is a multidisciplinarian. He is Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty, an MPA and PhD from Harvard University, a superannuated IS officer. We have got disconnected, but again, he is going to join us. He has joined us. So, thank you very much, sir, for joining our network to deliver a much awaited lecture. Your coming to our platform is the biggest opportunity and achievement for me, because I am like your student who have learned the basics of going to the field and collecting the data, interacting with the folk artists and the tribes and all those artists, the peoples and the scholars, those who are working in various dimensions of field. That opportunity you gave me when you were the member secretary of Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts. With your blessings, I got the opportunity to work in the entire northeastern states of India like a free bird, and you always taught me the art of doing the things in a holistic manner, uh, taking so many things together in one go. That was your USP. So before I tell you to speak, I should you are someone who doesn't know any introduction. But for those audiences of mine who want to know about you, I should tell them briefly about you. Our speaker, Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty, IAS retired. Oh, retired is a bad word. Superannuated in the rank of Secretary Government of India. He did his MA from Kolkata, MPA and PhD in Fine Arts from Harvard University. He is advisor to the government and NGOs and distinguished professor, Center for Knowledge Societies, Centurion University of Technology and Management, Orissa. Dr. Chakravarty had been district magistrate, commissioner, secretary in culture, forestry, environment, tourism, education, training, election, etc. Chairman, Lalit Kala Academy, Director General, National Museum, Member Secretary, Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, IGNCA, New Delhi, Chairman, National Screening and Evaluation Committee, Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, Director, National Museum of Mankind, IGRMS Bhopal, and Chancellor, National University of Education, Planning and Administration, NUPA. He had headed the Delhi Institute of Heritage Research and Management, research and management as vice chairman, and chaired the Bhasa Trust Baroda and People's Council of Education at Educations at Allahabad. His publications include exhibition catalogs, edited journals, on art, books and articles on bioculture diversity, new museum movement, interface of natural and social sciences, community knowledge systems, culture and development, family, tribal identity, indigeneity, education, rock art, folk and tribal art, Khajuraho, Gwalior Fort, Orcha, Bodh Gaya, Ujjaini, Vidisha, new museology, archaeology, Indology, and Sanskritic traditions. His latest publication, published in 2 volumes as Walking with Shiva, Cognitive Roots of Indian Art, Archaeology, and Religion. Hindi translation underway by Aryan Books International, Delhi. Presently, he is at work on volumes on historiography of Indian art on public policy. Dr. Chakravarty has reinvented cognitive categories, nurtured relations among cultures, disciplines, and art, strategized culture-specific governance and diplomacy, restored vanishing links of culture, linguistic, biological diversity, regenerated community habitats as living museums, and rebuilt crumbling bridges between culture and development. He is known for interdisciplinary research and field initiative in promoting culture survival, environmental self-determination, and sustainable knowledge systems of marginalized community. This is a very, very brief introduction of Dr. Professor Chakravarty, who is he's a planner, a decision maker, and a strategist, and a multi-dimension faceted personality. I welcome you, sir. तो सर ये हमारा फॉर्मेट है और मैं आपको आमंत्रित करता हूं कि अब आप अपनी बात कहें.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, and all my friends out there. We're listening to this introduction by Dr. Mishra, who has been an old friend and colleague, and also, dealing with the problems of technology. I recall Paul Valéry's words that what I see blinds me, and what I hear makes me deaf. Knowledge is like a cataract in the eye. Please take it away so that I can see. So much of what I shall say is like a cataract in the eye. Ultimately, unless one is able to realize the vision, of the artist who conceived and executed the iconology and the iconography and the architecture and the sculpture, our knowledge is too late to arrive on the scene of experience and execution by the artists. And there is always this gulf of understanding. But we are still trying to bridge it with archaeology, ethnology, iconography, etc. All the tools that current tools of understanding have provided us with. Now, that's why whenever one is dealing with the art of the past, one recalls another sentence by Wolfram, who was a great German art historian, that we see what we look for, but we also look for what we want to see. Therefore, you never know whether the art historical interpretations or the archaeological interpretations about the past are correct contextual interpretations or not. In this particular case, my procedure has been to deal with inscriptions and coins and the local architecture, the evidence of the sculpture, and the texts. The texts have been beginning from the Vedic days, the Brahmanas and the Upanishads, and also the inscriptions. Once they are read together and we provide a harmonious reading, then we arrive at some kind of a relevant and reasonable understanding. That is what I shall to provide. Let's begin, with the map. So we shall show you first the map of Chhattisgarh. We are talking about an area which has been always treated as marginal to the history of archaeology and iconography in the country. It has been treated as a kind of a subaltern group of temples and creativity, which has been initiated by people living in the woods, the forests, and the hills, and who are outside the pale of history. Even today, they, in spite of their knowledge systems and their great, contribution in the past, because I can tell you, in this Daksina Kosala, which is the southeastern part of, used to be southeastern part of Madhya Pradesh. Now it is a nascent state for almost a decade now. More than a decade. It is the new state of Chhattisgarh. But then in those days, it used to be called Daksina Kosala. Now that the term Dakshina came in much later because Kosala was known, but the southeastern direction of Dakshina Kosala, as distinguished from Uttara Kosala, is understood from the inscriptions and from the description of Barahamira, Ashoka, Samudragupta, talking about the Atavikas and Mahakantara, etc. And we are able to see that this is the area. And also, there is a small inscription which says Gamasa Kausalya, which is connected by some people with mother of Sri Rama. And it is not untrue that the epic talks about the peregrinations of Lord Rama through Dandakaran and through Dhanushkodi, I mean, all the way to Sri Lanka. And these are forested and wooded habitats where the tribals were in they are in existence in 100% strength. In fact, there are certain you see sites like Dipadi in Sarguja, which are in 100% Orao territory. Even today, there is hardly any mix of other castes and learners, and there is a small sprinkling of traders from other castes. But yet, there are about 30, 40 temples of great quality from the 7th till the 11th century AD, and all around in the Chaila Pahar, which is ringed by three rivers. There are inscriptions, and there are you see what are called workshops and studios where people had curved, who had sculpted and etched drawings before they translated them into actual sculptures. So this is the area. Now these two sites, I mean, they are called this site is called Devrani. The other site is called Jethani, and Devrani Jethani, of course, is a modern nomenclature. But these two temples were known to Mr. Begler of the Archaeological Survey of India as early as 1878. He looked at it and made a brief mention and went on. And he, at that time, only the Devrani temple part of it was there, and the Jethani temple, I mean, the one on the top, was covered, and it was not yet visible. But in 1878, this was Begler's report, and in 1978, the first excavation or clearance took place. It was organized by the state archaeology, Mr. Ruizwood did it. And then again in 1987 and 88, I came in. I had already declared the site as a state protected monument. As Commissioner Archaeology, I was also DPI Chairman Board, Chairman Professional Entrance Board, etc. I declared the site as a state protected monument in 1984, and in 1987 and 8, the second excavation, actually third, it should be called the third excavation, because there was an earlier clearance by Mr. Rizud and Mr. Jadhav, which brought out some sculptures from around Devrani temple and put them in front, and they were installed in front. When I came in, this particular image we are going to focus on was not there. In fact, it was a completely covered ground, and the Jethani temple was all covered. And so, therefore, the state archaeology undertook a clearance cum excavation. I mean, because it was a single cultural level, and there was no stratigraphic layers really. When this excavation was carried out by the state archaeology department, it was more like a horizontal excavation, and they went all around Devrani and Jethani temple, and they gradually brought these two temples out. And as they were bringing these temples out, this particular image was found lying on its back. And it was impossible to know that it was an image like this, because the back was not curved or sculpted. Only the front was, and nobody could really divine what exactly was the iconography of this image. There was speculation that possibly this was laid on the face to protect it from the from onslaughts by enemies or by hostile forces. And some people would even speculate that since this is a kind of a Bhairava Rudra Shiva image, possibly the intention was to protect, people from its glare. Whatever the speculation, there is always speculation like that. This image was a unique one. As you can see, as soon as this image was seen, it was brought out, scholars started coming in. Especially foreign scholars. They are keen on research and on any new finds. So whether it was Donald Martin Statner, or the Gupta Empire, you see, the lady who is a teacher who has been teaching in California. So they came, but their suggestion was that this was not really a kind of an ecumenical atelier image. It is not from you see the Gupta Vakataka imperial atelier. It is most probably a folksy, tribal, kind of a little warped and corrupt imagination. It's a bit of an absurdity, and it is a kind of a review. It's a kind of a strange kind of a conundrum. But since it is not explicable, it must be coming out of wild imagination. Most of these scholars were not aware that even the tribals, the tribal people there have a philosophy, and unless one studies their folklore and their oral narratives and the oral history, which has been there with them, be it the history of vegetation, history of migration, history of waters, they have it all, and they also have knowledge systems. Unless one looks into them, it is impossible to know their philosophy. That it is a philosophy of interdependence of organic and inorganic communities, all animals, all human beings, all plants, all geometric, lineaments. They all converge in their art and their imagination, and they all play a role. They are dramatis personae. So when this particular image was seen by the tribal people, they were not surprised. In fact, they were already leaving this kind of image in their imagination. And whether it is Lingo Devo, who is striding across the sky, or Anga Deva, who is being carried on the shoulder, or Kankalin Mata, or the entire host of tribal gods and goddesses, who guard their passages, who guard their forests, who guard their villages. There is an entire host of them. But since that will be an entirely different topic, if I go into it, then I shall have to only talk about the tribal imagination behind this particular image. So that is not the intention. I am trying to bring that particular idea in to show that this particular image. As you can see, there is this snake hood on the top, and these reared snake hoods on both sides. And the snake also, it also fans out its body, and it rears itself on both sides. On both sides, like Bhogavati. And then on the face of the image, which we shall see more closely, we have, the turban made out of the snakes, and then the Mayura, the peacock, and on both shoulders. And then the nose is made by what shall I say, the lizard with outspread arms. And a kuliraka. Then the crab is there, forming the chin. And the mustache is made by twin fish, Midhu, Mithuna. So this is the face. And then on the body, there are gunners. On the belly, there is a gunner, who is sometimes called Kalagni. and then on the upper part of the body there are two gunners, and then on the lower body part of the body there are two other gunners, and you will see that there is a change in the expression. There is a graduation from great gravity of expression to slight dilation of the face in a brief smile, and then in a loud, you see, kind of expression in terms of a bared cheeks and a smile. And then there are lions on the knees. Now, all these would appear to be a kind of a concatenation of wild figures without any meaning. In fact, Mr. Becker, who also looked at it, felt that there was no cosmogony in this particular image, and it was just a kind of a accidental product of wild imaginings. Now, so this shall we move on? So we shall we are going to look at it closely now. You see now you see the eyes are also formed by like demonic heads with you see gaping jaws, and so this particular portion, I have studied it in detail, and there are a lot of allusions and references in the book about each particular segment of this particular image, and it appears that there is a psychomachy going on here, a psychomachy of poisonous and ambrosial creatures. Because you see, the body of the Shiva is also the body of the universe. And when we talk about Shiva as Pashupati, we recall this philosophy of Pashupatism, Pashu Pasha Vimokshana, and that ultimately you shuffle off the mortal coils and the coils of, you see, thraldom in passions of various kinds. They are called, they are given different kinds of definitions. So, and once you get rid of them, and then you realize yourself. This particular Pashupata cult, has been mentioned in contemporary texts and inscriptions. And we also have, because one of the great scholars, Mr. V.S. Pathak, mentioned to me that I might like to consult one of the Somo Siddhantin texts by Giuseppe Tucci, which I consulted. And well, of course, that only gave only brief allusion to Somo Siddhantin views, but all over Chhattisgarh, all over Daksina Kosala, and in the neighboring region, there are inscriptions talking about Agni and Soma. So the Pashupatas were basically dealing with this merger of Jiva into Shiva. Like a Shivatta Yojanam. So in this, to look at these two images, this is the image of an ascetic with sunken cheeks and corrugated, you see, form, and but yet it is done with great force and great authenticity. A Pashupata saint, and this is again a Soma Shiva, looks like Soma Shiva, but it is also a Rudra Shiva head. But the look is meditative and contemplative. It is not, you see, a kind of a virulent image of terribilita, of great fury and, you see, violence. So all these skulls, we know that the Shiva is Kapala Mochana. We have heard about the skulls being impaled. Brahma being, you see, his head being cut off, etc. And what followed. Next. So then we see the bigger, you see, image on the belly, which has a mustache, and then another, you see, head, gunner head, with a broader kind of a smile, and then then we see the other heads on the thighs, and and then in between these heads there is the see the phallic image, which is again formed by a tortoise. Now the phallus is torn by a tortoise, and we have heard of Jalishwara Linga, and the tortoise is also symbolic of and that subterranean movement. And we have come across Jalishwara Lingas in Amarkantak as well as in Gujarat and all the way down here. Because one thing that must be mentioned is that we have found inscriptions, I mean, at Sirpur, which talk about 27 Pashupata priests. I mean, they formed a sampradaya, which also created images in the 7th century. Now, this is around late 5th century AD, mid to late 5th century AD. The Sirpur images come up between late 6th to 7th century. And then we have come across other inscriptions in Daksina Kosala, which talk about 66 such Pashupata ascetics. So the number increased as the Pashupata ascetics, and we moved from Kayarohana. The word Kayarohana itself, the ascent of the body itself, I mean, is symbolic of the ascent of consciousness. As the Pashupata, saints advanced from there in this direction, they set up all kinds of mutts and monasteries. Some of them were set up also in Sirpur, and we have inscriptions dedicated by queens, Abaddi, Nibaddi, which talk about the Pashupata Sampradaya. Now, many of these priests have the name Soma in them, Agni Soma, Agni Swamin, Soma, being a kind of a prefix or a suffix. And what was going on is that Agni and Soma is a kind of an interaction of fire and water, which is being enacted all the time in the body and in the rotary cycle of waters in the world. So in the Indian imagination, there has always been this attempt to mirror the universe in the body, and to see that there is an imitation of nature in its own manner of operation. There is no pinchbeck imitation of nature. We do not imitate a figure as it is. So if we are imitating something, we are imitating nature in its manner of operation, which is Pashu Pasha Vimakshana. Therefore, this Vimokshana takes place through a purging of waters. This purging of waters also takes place inside the body. Now, in the body of Rudra Shiva, there is this clash of poisonous creatures and ambrosial creatures. So, in the Sat Chakra Sadhana, in the Yogeshwara, I mean, which also this image is, I mean, there is this ascent of consciousness, and there is a purging of waters. In Jaska's Nirukta, there are 100 definitions of Jalam. It is both Amritam, it is also Bisham. And therefore, similarly, the waters in the body, one has Retas, and that Retas is kind of rectified through tapas. And it is rectified through a kind of rectification of consciousness, mutilated, fragmented consciousness of the human being, which is scattered among all kinds of objects. So that is focused, that is concentrated, that is rectified, that is cleansed. And in the process, there is an ascent from Muladhara to Agga Chakra. And that process is also shown in the ascent and the arrangement and the congregation of the different creatures, which will require a lot of references which are in the book and which cannot be really, recalled and presented in this particular, lecture. Then we see these Simhas. I mean, Simhas are also, because Shiva is also called Simhaga, and Singha is shown on the knee, and the Singha is also shown as a devotee. You see, there is a, because there is this Shiva Bhagavata cult. So whether it is a Singha, whether it is a Makara, whether it is a lizard, whatever it is, they are all Bhagavatas. They are devotees, and they all, when they are away from the Godhead, they are deformed. Next, please. So, so this is, see, even this Makara at Jethani temple at the door jam. I mean, this is also doing a Namaskara mudra, and it is also a devotee, a Shiva Bhagavata cult, like Vaishnava Bhagavata cult. I mean, is also holding its sway. And then this is a Makara with its, you see, kind of a snout is curled. I mean, this is forming the shoulder. And there is a discussion here that all these shapes on the body of the Lord Shiva, they also formed a kind of a arbor. And we have this Shatarudriya, in which there is a discussion of Shiva as Barmina, Baruthina, etc. I mean, Shiva as an armored warrior. And so we will find these references everywhere. And then Varuna. Now, Varuna is there. I'm not showing all the images. There is also a Sura image, Martanda Bhaskara. And that Sura image is flanked by Ashins. And Ashins are like, you know, doing the systolic and the diastolic operation, contraction and expansion of life breath. And there are allusions to that, you see, in the texts. And Varuna here, I mean, with these makaras rearing up from the sea to flank him. And then the lotus, you see, which is called a kind of a lotus umbrella on the top. And then you see the ladies on the top, the Nichina Bari, I mean, which is being poured, I mean, in Abhisheka on him. So Varuna and Surya are also corollaries of Soma and Agni. And this dialectic of Soma and Agni Savya Pashu is all pervasive in this particular present. And you will see this Kirti Mukha. Now, Kirti Mukha is this particular Kirti Mukha is cited at the door jamb of Devrani, the other temple, the later temple, and slightly later. I mean, it is only a few decades. And see the invasion of the face by all kinds of foliate forms. In fact, if you remove the foliate forms, it is reduced to nothing. So that's why, you know, you see there is a Shiva Buddha convergence in this period. I mean, there are many inscriptions which talk about, you see, the Shaiva kings patronizing the Buddhist monasteries, Buddhist kings patronizing the Shaiva monasteries, and the Shiva and Buddha coming together. And the Shiva Buddha convergence, I mean, which takes place here, also travels to Southeast Asia. And one finds this in the Shiva Buddha and Devaraja cult in Southeast Asia. Now, here, what I'm trying to point out is that this concatenation of foliate forms in the face, if one removes them, they're reduced to, I mean, this is reduced just to an outline. Similarly, if you remove the pashus from the body of the Tala Shiva, that body is reduced to a rekha, just an outline. So that's why one recalls, you know, Nagarjuna's, you see, passage, Ashunnamiti Navaktabam, Ashunnamiti Bhavavet, Uvayam, Novayam Cheti, Baptartham tu Kaptate. Yani only for expressing and explaining and inducing understanding, we are showing, you see, the forms. Otherwise, this outline is enough. You don't need anything more, which is why one is talking about knowledge being a cataract in the eye. You remove it so that we can see. And in order to see, one needs this maybe as these as props, but ultimately, when understanding comes, one dispenses with them. So, and then I'm showing, you see, not only you see Tala, but I am showing the other sites which we excavated. Now, I was talking about, Pairi and, Kanher and other rivers which travel through, surge through the hills. I mean, this is at the height of about 2,900 feet. I was SDM there. I was also in charge, district magistrate there. And I passed by these sites without looking at them because I didn't know that they existed. I didn't have the knowledge of the education, and so one needed some kind of knowledge to even look for what one wanted to see. But these temples were completely covered, and they were in 100% Orao territory, bordering, Jharkhand. And this was inside a sarna, a kind of a forest shrine, which one finds in Bihar and as Jahir Than, Jahir Buri, etc. And where this was called Samat Sarna. And inside the Samat Sarna, there were we found about 25 temples. And all these temples had sculptures like these. I mean, this is a sculpture of a Bhairava, but you see the elegance of this 9th century image and the way it has been done. And though the Tala imagination survives, but this is a more conventional iconography, though the presentation of the image as a corpulent and what shall I say, a person without emaciated cheeks or sunken chest, etc., is a bit unusual. Thanks. So Bhairava at Dipadi, and then we you see the Bodhisattva image in Longman Caves in China. Now this is about 536 or so, and in fact I had gone there and seen this image also, and it has similar figures on the knees, etc. You may be able to see, may not be able to see. It has similar figures on the shoulders. It has a similar imagination, and there is an inscription there. I mean, I can't read Chinese, but the inscription says, it has been translated by Alexander Sopa, it says that the river has been traced to its source. The summit has been reached. Therefore, we are fulfilled, and we don't have anything to say. And this is the image which is carved along with that inscription. And so this is in China, Longman Cave in China, just about 50, 60 years later. And we know that Xuanzang had visited Sirpur, I mean, in around the same time, and he has left glorious and descriptions about the Sirpur city and Daksina Kosala, and the great urban forms which had been evolved there, including huts, large and small, including storage places, and they're all around this Tala and you see Sirpur and these sites. We have numerous ports dug in the river bed. I mean, out of stone, like tunnels, which used to park boats. And then these boats were used by the merchants for carrying their trade to all around. And these traders and the ascetics, Pashupata ascetics, they joined hands to move to Orissa and to other neighboring regions and spread the Pashupata cult. And if you go to Orissa and see Lingeshwara temple or other temples, you will see that there are Lokulisha images, because this image is also seen as Lokulisha with the upraised phallus, and though it doesn't have the usual Lakula, the Danda, but what I am trying to say, that there is a convergence of imagery and significance in an image. I mean, there have been mistakes. There have been mistakes in assessing this particular image as just one particular form. Either it is Rudra Shiva, or it is Agni, or it is you see Bhairava, or it is a kind of a Rupa Jaksha, or it is Kumbhodara, a kind of a Gana accompanying Shiva, or it is Ganadhaksha, Dindipa Gana, as one of the scholars says, or it is just a kind of what shall I say, Balagraha Chikitsa, you see, prototype image, Skandapasmara, with forms which are supposed to frighten away the Balagrahas, or the evil spirits, the ghouls and goblins, the ogres, which try to threaten the peace and well-being of mothers with their small children. So, uh, so when we listen to these various interpretations, look at the Tala image, and then come back to the forms in the adjacent area, we see Mahasada Shiva in Mandal and Vishwarupa Vishnu in Parel, Maharashtra. And we find that there has been anticipation, because this form is slightly older. I mean, in the 5th century, late 4th century, 5th century, and we find that this concatenation of heads has not been, thought of for the first time in Tala. The only thing is that there has never been a concatenation of so many shapes in one body. I mean, this is an anthropomorphic form, and there is a kind of an iconographic support for this kind of image, but there is no iconographic support for the image we see, except in Vedic texts, in Shatarudriya, or in Shatashatara Upanishad, etc. So one has to reconstruct from inscriptions and from the text about what the image would mean. And there are concrete, there is concrete support for this kind of suggestion in the textual citations. Next, please. Now, Eko Mukhalinga Kho, this is also 5th century. I mean, Satna, whereas district magistrate for a while, and then Panna, which was an adjacent district. Now we see such images frequently, that there are, Chaturmukhalinga or Ekamukhalinga, and there is also an Ashta Murti, I mean, in Mandsaur. So one finds such images, and there are, the different heads indicate different mood, malignant, benignant, or balanced. In which there is a kind of a balance between passion and intelligence, ethos and pathos. That kind of explanation is available. Next. So then we see this Pictish warrior, England, and demonic figure in Poland. Now, Pictish warriors, now this is long later. This is 12th century AD. And you see there are similar forms on the body. And you see this Polish, demon. Now, there is no other significance to these images except what they look like. There is no deeper meaning. There is no inscription. There is no archaeology. There is no contemporary or older text which explains these images. There is also a similar image from Tangaroa in Polynesia, and there is no explanation. What I'm trying to say is that mere congregation of images doesn't make Tala Shiva as we see it. It is the convergence of shape and meaning, as the Raghuvamsham has it. Bagartho iva samprikto Parvati Parameshwaru. The shape and the meaning are married like Parvati and Shiva. So this is the special feature. And then uh, these two images show the door jam in the Devarani temple. Now the door jams in the Jethani temple are all scattered, broken. You see, because what happened is that the Jethani temple was constructed, I mean, on non-architectonic principles. It was constructed out of, you see, vertical slabs, and it was there was no bonding, no cementing. There was none in those days. One has found some bolts and clamps on the steps. Maybe they were planted later as a measure of conservation, because there are 7th century brick embankments all around. And then these particular Devrani survived because it was done with vertically laid slabs, and it was done in a more architectonic manner. And so while Jethani, you see, pillars were freestanding pillars, they fell one against the other, and the you see the structure itself collapsed. I mean, this was conceived more architectonically, so therefore it survived. And which is not to say that there has been any shikhara. We have found no evidence of any shikhara. Most probably it was a flat roof temple. Now, if you can see, I mean, it is difficult to show these things, I mean, in a slide. Now, there are all these shakhas, the shakha vibhakti in the door jam. And there is Rupa Shakha and Khalva Shakha, Patra Shakha, Prati Shakha, and you see Bahya Shakha, and then there is a what is called Rupa Shakha. So all these shakhas, they are full of a kind of an interpenetration of floral, faunal, and geometric forms. Now, what was happening in a kind of a what shall I say, more sedate manner in you see Jithani temple, which is earlier, is happening here with total abundance. In other words, if Jethani, you see door jam, I'm reconstructing it conceptually because I can't show it to you. Where Jethani, you see, door jam was conceived, I mean, more architectonically, without, you see, the architectonic integrity, but just in terms of, you see, simple narration. It was a freestanding kind of a door jam without all these inner propulsion. There was no diagonal accent. It was a kind of a vertical and horizontal accent. So with in just 50 years, there is a change in perception, and there is a kind of a movement from plastic to linear form, and what is called a kind of a movement from haptic or tactile approaches to optic or visual approaches. I mean, so these in this approach, I mean, here the forms merge, and from a distance, they seem to be undifferentiated. In Jethani, they are all differentiated and distinct, and you can see them without any difficulty as you see different limbs of the door jamb or the you see pillar, etc. So in this, if Pashupati in Jethani, I mean, though we have not found it in Jethani, we have found it outside, but you see the cyclopean form, the colossal figure. I mean, when it was freestanding and it was unharmed, it must have stood at about 14 feet. I could find only about 9 feet, and and then we could find the fragments which added up. I mean, makes it into 14 feet. Now, those are huge figures. Contrasted with them, those figures, I mean, the figures at Devrani are smaller, and there is a kind of an integrated program here. You see, in the door jam, we have seen. You have not seen because I have to, because there is no time to show everything. But there is Shiva Dakshina Nayaka. I mean, who is Gangadhara Shiva, and who is at the same time trying to propitiate and you see Parvati, who is turning away in a huff because of a kind of a rival for his affections. So Shiva Dakshina Nayaka is there, and then Ganga is shown because Ganga is the rival. Now Ganga comes down on the on Shiva's locks, and then Ganga is released. Why is it released? Because Ganga is released in three streams. Ganga Tripathaga. Now we see Saraswati here, and we see Ganga here, and Ganga is surrounded pell-mell by you see the Sagaraputras. Now Sagaraputras are again you see kind of symbolic of the human breaths and the human you see generation. I mean, which has lost its way because of amnesia, because of aphasia, and because of loss of speech and memory, and they are lost. So they are burned to ashes by the anger of Kapila, and Kapila is a solar symbol also. And then Bhagirath, I mean, brings down the waters. And so again the water and you see solar interaction, the Soma and Agni interaction takes place here with these three you see streams of Ganga, and with the three streams of Ganga also compared with the you see Ira, Shushumna, and Pingala in the body, the three Granthi. So again, one is talking about the body and universe equation and a kind of a correspondence of feeling and sentiment between the two. Next. Then we try to show you what is happening here. You see these on both sides we have one side there is Kubera, and the other side there is you see Shiva Parvati, and Shiva Parvati in dalliance. And because you see Kubera is there, so Kubera is condemned to a kind of a imprisonment here, and as a Jaksha he has got several Jakshas below him, and Shiva Parvati are in that Mahamaithuna, which you see puts the gunners in dismay and despair, and they are milling all around you see Shiva and Parvati in consternation, in dismay, some speechless, some with their eyes closed, some with their you see hand on their lips, etc., etc. And here I mean I jumped because I mean there is not enough time to explain each image. I mean so jump to another image from the 16th century. This is by a kind of a contemporary artist from the 16th century, whose name is Giuseppe Archimoldo. Now he has done an image of painting of Rudolf II, the Roman Emperor, Holy Roman Emperor. Now he has been transformed into this shape using only fruits and plants. So again, what I'm trying to point out that this is just a concatenation of external forms without any inner significance, except for the fact that he has been presented as the god of spring, Vatumnus, as it is said. So you see, this is that Mahamaithuna image, then Shiva and Parvati playing Chosa, and the gunners, milling around, all around. And in Jethani, you will not see this chiaroscuro, this emergence from the darkness. There is this play of light and shade, and there is this, you see, instead of lateral, there is a diagonal accent, and there is a out thrust and in thrust, and there is a kind of a contrast, I mean, between the processional and the recessional spaces. So this is new. Only in 50 years, things change, and we are moving gradually, as Kramrish used to say, that we are moving from plastic to linear, and there is a gradual movement from rectilinear to curvilinear, and then there is also a kind of a movement. I mean, of what Kamlesh calls innervation. You see, the life which was earlier in plants, etc., immigrates into the human being, and it assumes all kinds of contortions and shapes. And there is an in look, and there is an attempt to incarnate spirit in matter. Uh, so. Um, now this jumping from one thing to another is only to show the variety that is available, and which requires much more investigation and exploration. I am quite sure that once this lecture is over, there will be a flood of questions, and there will also be a flood of suggestions, because I have seen a lot of suggestions on the internet about this image, and but there is no time to go into all the research that has been done, and so that is available only in the text and in the library. And so this is this these forms, these floral forms, this diagonal band in the Devarani pillars, and see these panels, which are much simpler and much more mellifluous in formation, and there is a kind of a greater volume. Here the volume is lost, and there is a flattening. So this happens with age. This is this is early 5th century, and this nudges close to the 6th century. So there is a change in perception, and what Kramrich says to some extent, that there is a loss of plastic filling may have some reasoning behind it. So we come back we come back to the image again. No, we are not going back. We are going forward. Huh. We are going back.
Forward.
Forward. Okay. So let's look at the earlier image again.
Okay.
Let's look at the. Actually, this is the last image. So this is the image we show again. I mean, to jog your memory. There is much more. There is much more. I have not shown you the vast, repertoire of images which are available either in Orissa, or in Chhattisgarh, or in Madhya Pradesh, or in even there are also comparisons available in big temples in Bangladesh, in Kotilmura, Mainamati, etc., of around the same period. So none of this is being shown. There are also, you see, big temples. I mean, you see these big revetments. I mean, of the 7th century AD in Tala. They have, you see, parallels elsewhere. So that I'm not showing, nor am I showing the details of Tala itself. So that would, how much time have we spent? How much time have we spent?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you that if some referential images or comparative images you can show, sir, because it creates interest and people want to know. So it is a very archival thing. We want to have the glimpses of those images for the people who are viewing, or also for the future people, who are going to watch our
trouble
program.
is that would require several lectures. I mean, so I did not prepare for that. I really thought that it would be about 45 minutes to an hour, and then there will be some questions, and then one could. So that would require a different kind of presentation. This is focused on Shiva. I mean, that particular image. But if one looks at, you see, Daksina Kosala at large, then there is a lot, much more all around. And as I was explaining, that in the folk and tribal lore, in the oral, you see, tradition, there is so much which has not been investigated. I looked at it, and I don't think that my investigation was complete or thorough. I mean, it was only, I think, scratching on the surface. But we could see vast continuities. And then in the rock art, prehistoric rock art also, there is a lot of rock art in that area. And so there is a continuity and convergence between prehistoric art and contemporary folk and tribal art. And then this particular phase which comes in, I mean, is not an interruption. It is not a sudden, what shall I say, outburst, I mean, of wild imagination. This also falls in place logically. But that is not the, topic for me, myself, that I have set myself today. So this is only to evoke curiosity, not to satisfy it. People should travel there and look at it, and give their own conclusions also. You should also look at the inscriptions. The book is costly, so it should be seen only in the library, because the libraries will have it, and the book will have about 40 photographs. So one should look at the photographs, and there are extensive references. So the references tell you about why what is being said is being said. Okay, thank you.
So your
Yes, it's over.
PPT is over?
It's over.
Or okay, so I am just removing your PPT so that you will be now seen in the front of this thing, on the front of it, and we can discuss it. And it, he was and he is Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty. This kind of presentation can be made only by you, sir, because the kind of data that you have collected, the synergy that you have created between the tribe, folks, and classics, and then you have tried to show the significance of tribal and folk art into the mainstream art, and everything you have narrated that speaks volumes about your hard work that you have done in collecting the data, interpreting it, and connecting it with the world culture. That was the power. So many people have praised you. We have Dr. Anjani Kumar Jha. He says, very enlightening lecture. Thank you, sir. We have Padma Shri Usha Kiran Khan. She's a historian, she's a Sahitya Academy winner, Padma Shri. She says, अब सुन रही हूँ, बाद में सुन पाऊंगी. She says, I need time to listen to you carefully and then evaluate. That was the power. Again, Anjani Kumar Jha says, Sanatan Sanskriti is the confluence of varying faiths in the long journey of human civilization. Yes, he has been said, supporting what you have said. Shiva in any form is Sakal Kalyarakari, who knows to give only give. He has a sense of. There is one question and curiosity again from Dr. Anjani Kumar Jha. He said, I think, sir, you can read it also. Sir, does it symbolize the mingling of non-tribal and tribal culture in the faith and beliefs of people in the prehistoric
Yes, I mean, because you see this designation tribal, I mean, as Misha knows, has always been objected to by me because tribal, non-tribal, excluded, included, scheduled, non-scheduled, these are categories which have been invented in the last 200 years of colonial rule. I mean, there were Shabaras, Nishadas, Pulindas, etc. And the Atadikas are mentioned by Ashoka in his inscription. And we also have Parvata Dwarakas, I mean, in the area adjacent to, Daksina Kosala. But you see the tribal in the sense of a completely different race, a Proto-Australoid as distinguished from, Indo-Aryan, etc. that kind of divide has been created, that Dravidian and Indo-Aryan is completely separate, and that they are racially different, and that there was a kind of Aryan invasion, and there was mingling with local indigenous culture. So all these theories require a lot of revision, and you see this theory of diffusion. I mean, using all kinds of geneticist evidence and linguistic evidence without concrete archaeological evidence about migration of people. And one has evidence of grave goods cultures, etc., in Central Asia, etc. But all through India, there is no such clear-cut evidence in which it is ever seen that the tribal imagination and the non-tribal imagination, that the contextual imagination and the textual imagination were radically different. I mean, that is what I was saying, that the contemporary tribal folklore, which survives today, reflects the image exactly. In fact, if that could be the subject of a completely separate lecture. So the fact that it is also seen in Shetashvatara Upanishad, Sarvanano Shiro Gribha, Sarvabhuta Guhashaya, Sarvabhyapi Sah Bhagavan, Tasmat Sarvagata Shiva, Sarvata Pani Padam Tat, Sarvata Akshi Shiro Mukham, Sarvata Shutimal Loke, Sarvam Abhritta Trishtati. Now, or say Saiko Varna Bahuda Shakti Yogat Varnan Anekan Nihitatva Dadati. And these quotations from Shetashvatara Upanishad, I mean, I am reading in Sanskrit, but if you read the folklore, the local tribal, folklore, they will have similar imagination, but the kind of sculptures they make may be different. I mean, what is these imperial ateliers and the craftspersons, I mean, who receive patronage from Guptas or Bakatas, or other people of the tribal territory. As I explained, that the 100% Orao village till today produced, images of equivalent quality, some of which I showed in the 8th century AD, just 2 centuries after this. So I have an impression that these invented categories of tribal and non-tribal should be re-examined. I mean, with deep respect for the oral tradition, which has hardly been studied. Mishraji has been studying it a lot. I think that there is a lot to look for, in terms of archaeology, in the oral evidence which he has studied, in contemporary, mirror images in archaeology. What else? Mishraji, you don't have any doubts?
Racial category and all those things, I am in agreement with you, sir. Because the racial category and all those things, they are rejected and rejected. They say no, these are all nonsense. We should not talk like this. And I was reading, the book came during your tenure only, Communication with God, and this communication with God about the Sabara traditions and the tradition of that Jagannath temple, and then the making of this thing. That is a wonderful synergy,
Exactly.
that was created. And I was just exploring the art fascinating, and I came to know about the Satanami tradition, one tribe, and he was not allowed. You can't go to temple. Okay, my body is my canvas. My body is my temple, and he tattooed his entire body from foot to the head. राम राम राम, सो रामनामी हो गया. तो इस तरह का है. ट्राइबल्स हैव देयर ओन वे ऑफ creating art and retaining it. तो वो मानना ही पड़ेगा.
Sir, we have what you are mentioning. It requires. I mean, I want to butt in that in. You see these Shabaras,
please.
Shabara Shivri Narayan temple in Chhattisgarh, and the the Shabara tradition. I mean, the Shabaras as routes, or the priests for Puri temple, and the Mahima Dharma. One of the founders was a tribal person, a Khon person, and they set up this, you see, Mahima Dharma, in which you see Alekha, the god is called Alekha, Nirguna, and there is a temple dedicated to the void. You see the zero and the plenum. You see the Shunya and Purna. They are seen as synonymous. I mean, in the tribal religion, and so one can. I am absolutely sure that all these prejudices are inherited colonially, and because of you see the kind of you see. History that we are fed on. I mean, the subaltern history is not yet written.
It's no history is still very charming subject, and people should start doing this. I was just
Mm,
recollecting Ratwa Vils and their Indo-Dev, and the
mm,
entire
mm,
fabrication of Indra
mm,
and his manifestation,
mm.
his associates' body,
Yes.
and the art and
Mm,
art manifestation, folklore,
mm.
everything connects them towards the Vedic cult. Now when one can say who who has taken from whom, you can say they have taken from you, and they can
Mm.
say you have taken from us. So these are the things which need serious onion peeling interpretation, historical investigations, and multidisciplinary approach is
You
needed.
see,
Sir.
you see,
You initiated this. Whatever little I
there
did,
is
I think you allowed me to do
another
this. Sir.
problem
We
here.
have
Another problem here.
yes,
Again,
sir. Yes, sir.
sorry to interrupt you again, because you see, in our case, for
No, no,
instance,
sir.
the
Please, sir.
history,
Please, sir.
I
Please,
mean,
sir.
begins with Indus Valley civilization. Now, they hardly look at rock art. And even in Indus Valley civilization, the prehistory of Indus Valley is not seen. That there is a Neolithic, Chalcolithic period with a lot of unexcavated sites in the entire area. And much of the, you see, most of the sites in Punjab, etc., are destroyed by industrial agriculture, etc. So, therefore, what do you study? One is giving conclusions on the basis of limited evidence, which is given by a few excavations. So this is the problem with our study. And are we doing any excavations? I mean, we are not doing really excavations. I mean, we are not even, most of our reports remain unpublished, and most of our monuments and sites remain unprotected. I mean, we protect maybe about 20, 25,000, 30,000 sites between state governments and government of India. But there must be million sites and landscapes and, you see, rock shelters and tribal shrines and regular shrines in the country. So the most important task, for groups like these. I mean, you are so good to have set it up, and there are other groups. We should create a convergence of groups, and then you see, start a movement for community conservation, because we can't depend on government alone to do everything. In earlier days, it was the community which was taking care of its own, and the government would just chip in occasionally. But I mean, most of those shrines which are built in perishable material have vanished, and so we are left only with some stone temples, etc. But that is not the evidence. I mean, that is why it is said that you see, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. It is absolutely true. Yeah, go ahead.
I I want to tell you a few things, sir.
Hmm.
One is Dr. Bimarani. She says, I could not listen fully, but whatever I listened, it was very, very
Hmm.
informative. And Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Singh says that I have been saying that Dr. Chakravarty is living encyclopedia. Yes, he is living encyclopedia. He is writing encyclopedia. He is talking encyclopedia. He is acting encyclopedia. I am very fortunate to have worked with two encyclopedic scholars of India. They were two Bengalis, Dr. B.K. Rai Burman and Dr. K.K. Chakravarty. I'm fortunate
And
to work
but
with
most
them.
important,
You know, for the tribal, it is my turn to speak, sir. Doctor, Dr. B.K. Rai Burman, you talk of anything of the tribal and social and the issue, and everything was there on his tongue. He started giving dictation. It was such a meticulous, detailed, to the point description you cannot even imagine. His mind was a real encyclopedia. Then we have another encyclopedic man, and he is Dr. Kalyan Kumar Chakravarty. You know, Kumar Chakravarty is little higher. Why is little higher? Because he is an able administrator. He knows how to handle the Department of Culture. I always remember he always said, "Look, culture is should be the biggest department, biggest ministry, and the allocation should be maximum to this. And through culture, we can do many things." I was told by him to document some, the culture, the customary laws. I started doing. He said, "No, no, don't do this way. You invite all the elders from every tribal community." So in a way, we invited 60, elders, and they started speaking. And we invited 15, photographers and videographers. They documented. We made group, and in 6 days, we documented roughly about 3,000 pages describing each and everything of their culture, of their jurisprudence, of their local political organizations, social management, family management, tension management, everything. And then you come to know, my God, a scholar, if a scholar is assigned, if he is working in the field for hours together, years together, he is collecting data from 30, 40, 50, the specialist, and then he is coming claiming that he has done a big thing. Dr. Chakravarty has this charisma to do it in 5, 6 days. We have done it under your leadership, sir. And then here also, our audiences and viewers must have seen how you have synergized. The bioculture diversity was there, and the connection was there. Then tribal contemporary was there and there. Indian foreigners element were there and they were there. He has described. So he has multiple way of narrating the things. For narrating, for explaining, he is so engrossed, engaged into the system that he doesn't need any references. References are there in his memory. He can easily memorize. You know how he has. He was citing the Sanskrit slokas, and then still a Cambridge, and then all the great scholars who have spoken, worked, and talked about those things. So this is the power of Dr. K.K. Chakravarty. Thank you, sir. Sanjeev Kumar, sir. I agree with you, sir. If you want to say something, again मैं दूसरी की बात सुनाता हूँ.
क्या मुझे कह रहे हैं?
जी
मुझे कह रहे हैं? हाँ?
जी जी
नहीं,
जी
मुझे इसमें कहना है. मैं अब हिंदी में बोलता हूँ. तो
जी बोलिए बोलिए.
हिंदी भाषा भाषी जो हमारे दोस्त हैं, उनके लिए बहुत आवश्यक है कि ये
जरूर बोलिए
कि it is not enough that we you see talk about heritage or talk about culture. You see what Mishra ji was saying. I mean, all friends will always praise you, but I mean we have just touched the tip of the iceberg because culture in our part of the world has never been a matter of the Department of Culture. The day a Department of Culture was invented, culture was destroyed. Because culture is a part of, you see, water resource management, culture is a part of medicine management, culture is a part of forest management. Our country is going off the rocker because it has given up culture in management. Culture as part of development. It has forgotten. So culture is so important as a catalytic, you see, matter. It is not a culture of song and dance. It is a culture which is community specific, which is culture specific, which is, you see, hill and mountain specific, river specific. So everywhere with micronuclear, you see, groups, one has to change the strategy of development, and one has to work with the people, the communities. The people one is working on. One cannot impose from the top and, you know, do some plans on the drawing board. and then impose them all the similar houses, similar structures. It is not possible. So this is the biggest tragedy in our part of the world. Earlier, the communities were in close partnership. So we hope that this group and the other groups that we shall try to combine with will work towards that end and start a community surge in community movement and conscience in this direction. Let us hope so.
Yes, sir. I agreed with you, sir. Again, I'm remembering one incident. You know, in Sikkim, there is a place called Jorthang. And one man from Sikkim came to me. He said that I have identified some 500 indigenous healers from
Mm.
various villages of Sikkim. We want to organize a 7-day workshop, you know, that the festival of those indigenous healers. And I went to you. You said, okay, you do it. And we organized that. More than 557 community healers from various tribes and caste community, they came, they offered their services, so many miraculous things. Their knowledge about the bioculture diversity, medicine, herbs, salves, and then the chanting mantras and associated narratives on all those things. That that told me about the power of that Buddha and all those things. So these are the things that I learned, that if the culture is taken seriously, culture is taken. I was working with the Chow dancers of Purulia. They say they were the rickshaw pullers. And you know, sir, what did they told me? They said, डॉक्टर साहब, अगर मुझे रिक्शा चलाने केवल जो जो रोजगार योजना होता है, प्राइम मिनिस्टर रोजगार योजना, उसमें से केवल 80 रुपया आप मुझे दे दीजिए, तो मैं दिन भर उसका परफॉर्मेंस करूंगा और इस छाव ट्रेडिशंस को मैं मरने नहीं दूंगा. दैट वाज हिज कमिटमेंट फॉर दिस थिंग. और उसने ही ऑल्सो सेड कि जिस तरह से आप तालाब खुदवाते हैं, जिस तरह से आप रोड बनवाते हैं, मेरे से बनवा लीजिए. मैं दिन को काम करूंगा और रात को परफॉर्म करूंगा, अपनी परंपरा को, अपने ट्रेडिशंस को बचाऊंगा. ही सेड कि जिस तरह से आप योगा के टीचर को अपॉइंट करते हो, हमारा तो पूरा एक्रोबैट है, हमारा तो गेट है, अपवर्ड मूवमेंट है, फॉरवर्ड मूवमेंट है, बैकवर्ड मूवमेंट है. आप हमें कहेंगे तो हम योग का भी थोड़ा ट्रेनिंग ले लेंगे और उसको हम कंबाइन करेंगे. अपॉइंट मी इन द स्कूल्स एज स्कूल टीचर. वी विल चेंज द फॉर्मेट ऑफ द सोसाइटी. We will educate our people in our own way, where they will be taught about yoga, where they will be taught about the martial art, and also taught about the martial art that is the chow of Purulia style. This is my personal experience. Why I was working for Reliance Foundation's project, so they told me. And when they told me, I was remembering you, sir. I was remembering you. You used to tell me. So when you said ye bhi kar lo, ye bhi kar lo, ye bhi kar lo, I was getting very irritated. Why he is telling me to do all these things together? Because I was not used to do such kind of practice in the past. But when see, you are somebody who don't only say, who do also. You with me, I remember you said you went with me to अरुणाचल प्रदेश. एंड इन अरुणाचल प्रदेश मुझे फोटोग्राफी करने का शौक था, और जहां जहां मेरा मन करे आप गाड़ी रोक देते थे और बोलते ठीक है फोटोग्राफ करो. अब रुके हुए हैं. एक बार वो एक प्रोफेसर नाराज भी हो गए, तो आप उन्हीं पे चढ़ गए कि नहीं ये तो करते हो, करने दो, अच्छा काम कर रहा है. तो जो इस तरह का आपका पैशन है, उसको आप एक्शन में कन्वर्ट करते हो. और काश की सरकार के जो प्लानर्स होते हैं, सिटिंग इन द what in anthropology we call it armchair anthropology, sitting in the room planning, imagining that the tribals mean illiterate people, tribals mean half naked, half people, tribals mean people who do not have cultural ethos, tribals means the people who do not know what is the modernity, the people who can't speak English, the people who are the barefooted people, these are the mindset we have developed about the tribes. We don't know that the water that we are ruining in our cities, they store the water for us. They use minimum amount of water. and they allow the water to come to us, and we the city people are using those water. So we have to think. In one of the edicts of Asoka said, if you really want to do the, I'm telling it because you are a famous historian, art historian, and you are a multidisciplinarian. In one of the edicts, Asoka said, if you really want to do something for any group, the first group should be the tribal, the people who are living in the remote tribal, the hills area, the jungle, dense jungle area. They deserve your attention first. Unfortunately, we talk big and we really don't think much about those things. Again, Anjani Kumar Jha say absolutely right. Policies and laws must abuse by the culture in all aspects of abuse by the culture in all aspects of development. It remained neglected by governments under the influence of political secularism in a fully secular Hindu trading. This is his statement, sir. And one more statement he say, read abide in the place of abuse. Sorry for typological mistake. Anyway, so this was it. And if you want to give some message, sir, because it is getting recorded, people will listen to it for many years to come. So it was a very difficult task for me to bring Dr. Chakravarty, but I am emotionally attached with him, and I am his disciple. So, true disciple is one who can compel his master to come and speak the way his disciple wants him to speak. And I did exactly. I emotionally hammer him to come, and he came. So it was really very nice of you, sir. Dr. Sanjeev Kumar say we are thankful to learned speaker and organizer for such a brilliant talk and interaction. So, any plan that you want, that you really want to share with us, which we can, like we are the group of like-minded people who care for culture, who care for society or development, who care for humanity. So if and we are planning to work together in a way so that something concrete with minimum financial involvement we can do. We need your suggestions, sir.
Suggestion is clear. I mean, it is communities of the world unite. You see, I mean, communities of the world. I mean, all in all parts of the world, they are dying. I mean, they are dying gradually. And if this COVID, everybody talks about COVID, it is forgotten that it is a small community in the world. I mean, which is driven by technology and by you see kind of a economic imperialism. They are ruling over all the communities of the world, and it is because of them that because of this proto-colonial policy that this industrialization and economic imperialism has grabbed the entire earth, and therefore the forests are being destroyed, the water bodies are being destroyed, and the ecology is being destroyed. We must have an ecological civilization, not a technological civilization, and that can be brought back only by communities. So this group, along with other groups, can bring back the communities into circulation. It is, one doesn't have to depend on the government for everything. This is a community effort, and I congratulate you, I mean, and Dr. Mishra as the architect, I mean, for this. And I'm sure that the communities on the different platforms should unite for creating a revolution and change in this entire approach. I mean, this COVID is a result of the fact that having preyed on all species of the earth, the human being has started preying on himself and herself. And he or she has become the biggest predator, the biggest carrier of disease, and the biggest pandemic. The human being, a small section of humanity, is doing it to the bigger section of humanity. So the communities must unite to protect the earth and protect themselves.
Again, there is a question, but you have already addressed the 80% portion of answer of this question. How can we defend our culture? This is what he wants to say.
Well, I mean, we can defend our culture. You see, if there is a we, you see, I mean, who is we? That is the question. So I see a we here. I mean, a group of people who are interested in defending their culture. So the only way to defend our culture is to know that the culture is a various universe. It's a pluricultural world. One cannot talk about one culture. And as soon as one talks about imposing one culture, I mean, you destroy culture. So one has to recognize that there are cultures and cultures all over the world, and they also converse, they also combine, they also congregate. There is diversity and unity. It might look like a cliche, which is used all the time, unity in diversity, but it is not actually practiced. It is not practiced. And whether it is ecology or technology, I mean, in technology also, one cannot impose one technology, mega development technology for forestry, for irrigation all over the country. The technology also has to be intermediate and simple and tailored to local needs. So all that is possible, I mean, through civil society. So I see this as a civil society platform. If it is in we should forget that we should not blame the government that the government is not doing this. We should not blame another group that they are not doing it. We should do what is possible, and we should combine with all groups and try to ensure that we harness culture to development. Otherwise, development will completely destroy culture and destroy the humanity. This is what is happening today. I mean, we have never faced this kind of thing before. I mean, the human being has become the biggest disease, and most of the human beings are suffering because of a small section of humanity, which has destroyed the forests, which has destroyed the ecology, who is bent on corporatizing the economy. I mean, it is because of them that we are facing this kind of trouble. So, if we are talking about in then we should begin. You see. With small little things like this discussion, and then we should move to, initiatives. Those initiatives can be discussed. I shall try to give out a letter and then invite people what initiatives they can initiate on their own, and then we shall try to catalyze action. And we are now older people, but even then we have not lost the will to action. Then through correspondence, through synergy of initiatives, we can, change the shape of things on the ground. It is possible. This COVID epidemic should be a lesson.
Very true, sir. You have rightly said that the culture has a plural ethos. Culture is always plural. And in America, there was a trend to to initiate the development activities with the case study. They collect some case studies and they do the development activity. So they create a story. They collect a story. So there is a feminist called Chimamanda, and Chimamanda is a Nigerian, writer, a feminist, but based in USA. She says कि एक स्टोरी करके आप ये नहीं बता सकते कि स्थिति ये है, क्योंकि आप तो कह देते हैं कि नाइजीरियन, इंडियन, they are poor people, half fed, half naked, black, and very not very civilized, such and such thing. This is one story. आप कह सकते हैं कि दे आर क्रिमिनल, दिस इज वन स्टोरी. तो हम भी कह सकते हैं कि आप ड्रग एडिक्ट हो. हम ये भी कह सकते हैं कि आपको 12 साल की लड़की को क्या कहते हैं, कंडोम बांटा जाता है, 13 साल की लड़की आपके यहाँ प्रेग्नेंट होती है. तो ये स्टोरी भी हम आपको सुना सकते हैं. और वो कहती है कि डोंट बिलीव इन सिंगल स्टोरी, बिलीव इन मल्टीपल स्टोरी. सो इफ यू रियली वांट टू, you are serious about the cultural integration of India, you are serious about the cultural glory of India, you have to understand the power of plural cultural ethos, and that is very, very true, sir. I agree with you, and really with your vision and your direction will work to see how little we can do with our no financial strength, but great will of doing something for the community. That is there with us. Dr. Anand Varjan is paying his regards to you, sir. And there are so many. There are so many people. Chaitanya Saxena, he was with the Archaeological Survey of India. बहुत बहुत बधाई एवं हार्दिक आभार, sir. And there are Amit Narayan Pratihast. He's also.
It is a good opportunity. We shall get to know all these friends again.
Yes. Yeah. And
Anand has been in. Yeah.
this, Ji, sir. This is not the first and last lecture and interaction by Dr. Chakravarty. As I have told you, I can emotionally blackmail him, so I can keep on blackmailing him again and again. I will again call him. I will call him to give lecture suggestions. Not very frequently, but maybe once in 15 days or in a month, so that a strong bonding is there. We get our inspiration from him. So these are the things that we have learned from you. Your presentation was a master presentation. There is no word, words fail to describe the scholarship. You always exhibit your knowledge, your interpretation, everything. Thank you so very much, sir, for coming to this platform and helping me. Charan Spars, Pranam. So he was Dr.
Pranam to
Chakravarty.
everyone. Thank you.
कल हम लोग बाग प्रिंटिंग के एक बहुत बड़े कलाकार से मिलेंगे और परसों मिलेंगे हम लोग पहाड़ी प्रिंटिंग के आर्टिस्ट से। तो कल हम फिर 6 बजे मिलते हैं कल्चर मैटर्स विद कैलाश मिश्रा में। तभी तक के लिए आप सभी को धन्यवाद। डॉक्टर चक्रवर्ती के प्रति पुनः मैं आपको अपना चरण स्पर्श प्रेषित करता हूँ सर। नमस्कार। थैंक यू।